The Amazon was once a colossal megalake. The water is calm, but death is right beneath your feet. This is the story of the Amazon before the rainforest existed. Welcome to Amazon, the journey from Megalake to Rainforest. What part of the world are you watching this video from? Leave us a comment and let us know. This swamp looks peaceful. At least until the water birds suddenly take to the sky all at once. A warning signal is spreading fast. A Xenostropitherium more than 8 feet long continues toward the water's edge. Its short trunk constantly searches for fresh shoots. Its massive size means it has little to fear from most predators. Most, not all. Beneath the murky water, Langstonia has already locked onto its target. Powerful legs, a low-slung body, a long skull packed with sharp teeth. It was built for ambushes in the swamps. Then comes a lightning-fast charge. The target is not the massive body. It's the softer, less protected trunk. But Xenostropitherium is far from helpless. Its curved tusks become the first line of defense. Langstonia's armored scales shudder under the heavy impact. The confrontation quickly turns the once calm water into a battlefield. The fight has only just begun. And it is all happening right here, the Amazon. But this was not the Amazon of today. There were no endless stretches of dense rainforest. Only water. Swamps expanding all the way to the horizon. In many regions, the depth could exceed 160 feet. Most dangerous of all was the nature of the water itself. The water was thick with sediment. Light vanished quickly beneath the surface. Visibility was almost zero. Scientists call this place the Pebaz mega-wetland system. one of the largest wetland systems ever to exist on Earth. In that world, every movement was concealed, and beneath the surface, predators were already waiting. The Cenozoic era is often called the Age of Mammals, but Pebas tells a very different story. Here, reptiles were the dominant force, an ecosystem where crocodilians outnumbered birds. The sediment layers of Pebas reveal a very different world. A place where crocodilians were more abundant than water birds. But they were not living in chaos. They divided the world among themselves. One lurked in the deep river channels. Another hunted through the shallow swamps. Others patrolled the vast, open waterways. This division reduced direct competition. Multiple giant predators coexisted and hunting within the same ecosystem for millions of years. At the center of this network was Purosaurus. A giant caiman reaching up to 30 to 33 feet in length. For most of its life, it remained nearly motionless beneath the murky water. Only its eyes and nostrils rose above the surface, silent, patient. A giant megatherium slowly makes its way to the water's edge. It's simply too large to fear anything in this swamp, except Purosaurus. The distance closes inch by inch. Biomechanical models reveal that Purosaurus may have delivered a bite force approaching 70,000 newtons, nearly twice as powerful as Tyrannosaurus rex. Its cone-shaped teeth were not designed for slicing flesh. They were built to pin down, to puncture, to make escape impossible. Megatherium lets out a thunderous roar. Its claws, nearly 12 inches long, dig deep into the muddy shoreline. Two worlds are now pulling against each other. The death roll. Its massive multi-ton body twists with tremendous force, turning bite force into tearing force. Its strategy was always the same. Ambush. Lock on. Drag the prey underwater. For millions of years, nearly every major waterway in Pebas belonged to it. Pebas did not just create giant predators. It created an ecosystem with clearly divided roles. And Griposuchus represented a completely different strategy. Not raw power, but precision. A long body, an extremely narrow, elongated snout. A design that allowed it to move through the water with minimal resistance. This was not the kind of skull built to crush massive prey. It was built for catching fish, large fish, fast-swimming creatures, targets that were extremely difficult to catch in murky water. At over 33 feet long, Griposuchus was still a giant, but it did not compete directly with Purosaurus. While Purosaurus hunted massive prey near the shoreline, Griposuchus controlled another layer of Pebas. Prey that was fast, slippery, and difficult to catch. Its long snout allowed for rapid side-to-side strikes. The jaws snapped shut like a high-speed trap. Its prey had almost no time to react. And that was the difference. Pebas did not just produce larger predators, it produced more specialized ones. If Purosaurus was the embodiment of brute strength, and Griposuchus the master of speed, then Murasuchus followed an even stranger evolutionary path: deliberate deformity. Its skull was broad and flattened, unnaturally elongated, more like a duck's bill than the jaws of a crocodilian. A fully grown individual could reach 30 to 33 feet in length and weigh over 4 tons. Yet those jaws were poorly suited for crushing large bones, nor were they precise enough to hunt fast-swimming prey. So how did Murasuchus hunt? 3 main hypotheses exist: swallowing drifting animals, feeding on aquatic vegetation, or stirring through mud and filter feeding. The third theory is the most widely supported. It moved slowly through shallow water, opening its enormous jaws wide, then sweeping across the muddy bottom. At the same time, countless small creatures were drawn into its mouth. Small fish, crustaceans, invertebrates, mollusks. A feeding strategy remarkably similar to modern filter whales, except for one detail. This was a giant reptile of the ancient Amazon. Pebas did not just amplify size, it amplified diversity and strategy. Fossil layers reveal that dozens of crocodilian species once lived together within this ecosystem. Some were no larger than a dog. Others stretched beyond 30 feet, weighing several tons. And within this world of aquatic giants, who do you think was the true ruler of Pebas? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Pebas did not just create skilled hunters, it also created prey that were incredibly difficult to bring down. Here predation and defense evolved side by side, each side becoming more dangerous over time. A giant Stupendomys moves slowly through the shallow shoreline waters, its shell nearly 13 feet long. Its weight exceeding a ton. Beneath the murky surface, Purosaurus has already been waiting, almost perfectly still. Then the water erupts. Massive jaws clamp onto the edge of the shell. The death roll begins, a multi-ton body twisting violently. Purosaurus tries to drag the turtle into deeper water, where its bite force is most effective. But the thick, curved armor holds firm. Many fossilized shells have been discovered bearing massive bite marks, deep fractures left behind by crushing jaws. This suggests that Stupendimes was hunted regularly, even with its heavily armored shell. But it did not need to win every battle. It only needed to survive. A fully grown individual with an intact shell is proof that its defenses worked. Even so, not every turtle in Pebas relied on defense alone. Some may have been genuine threats themselves. One example was Caninomis. Its jaws were thick and extremely powerful. Its beak curved downward like a hook. This was not a structure built for feeding on soft vegetation. It was designed to crush hard shells, tear through soft tissue, and hold on to prey within the murky waters of Pebas. From above, Pebas looked like a world ruled by giant reptiles, crocodilians, massive turtles covering the swamps. But that was only the surface. Below it, another ecosystem existed in parallel, a world of giant fish. Freshwater giants moved through the dark waters. Stingrays hid along the bottom. Bottom-dwelling predators waited silently in the shadows. They did not hunt like the crocodilians. They occupied an entirely different layer of the ecosystem. In Pebas, danger came from every direction. Escaping a predator at the surface did not mean you were safe beneath the mud. Amid the maze of swamps and relentless predatory pressure from every direction, mammals still endured. Ancient Sirenians moved slowly through the shallow waters. They fed on vegetation, living peacefully within a world of aquatic giants. Ancient river dolphins, however, chose a different path, a far riskier one. They did not avoid danger. They became part of it. Within the sediment-heavy waters of Pebas, a Pebanista silently enters its hunting grounds. Here light almost disappears beneath the thick layers of silt. Vision can no longer be trusted. Sound becomes the only guide. It continuously releases high-frequency sound pulses, scanning through the dark water, locating the position of its prey. Pebanista accelerates. Its long body curves through the current. Its head snaps toward the returning echoes. The elongated jaws slam shut, trapping the prey between dozens of sharp teeth. The large facial crest gave Pebanista extremely precise echolocation abilities. Its body was around 30% larger than modern Amazon river dolphins, allowing it to dominate every stage of the hunt. If the waters of Pebas were already dangerous, the land was no safer. The edges of the mega-wetland were not stable ground. They were a maze of mudflats, flooded forests, and palm swamps. Everything here was wet, slow-moving, and dangerously unpredictable. It was the perfect environment for one strategy: ambush. Barinasuchus did not wait beneath the water like modern crocodilians. It came onto land. It was a cebecid, a group of predatory reptiles that abandoned the aquatic lifestyle. And that completely changed the way it hunted. It did not ambush prey beneath murky water. It hunted through flooded forests and muddy shores around Pebas. Visibility here was constantly blocked by vegetation and reeds. That was Barinasuchus' advantage. It silently closed the distance, then struck at extremely close range. Daytime and dusk were the most dangerous moments, when prey was more likely to let its guard down. Barinasuchus's body was built for this style of hunting. Long legs lifted its body above the soft ground. A long tail maintained balance during rapid turns. Its semi-upright posture allowed quick movement through tight spaces. Not for long-distance pursuit, but for controlling the attack. Reaching 13 to 20 feet in length, Barinasuchus was large enough to overpower most terrestrial prey. As the boundary between water and land slowly disappeared, predators began appearing everywhere. On land, another group rose to dominance: Phorusrhacids, the so-called terror birds. In their largest forms, they could stand around 2 to 2.5 meters tall. Compact bodies, long, powerful legs built for speed and stability. But their true weapon was the beak, large, heavy, curved downward like an axe blade. A downward strike aimed at the head, neck, or other vulnerable points could be enough to bring prey down instantly. Pebas did not draw a clear boundary between water and land. There were no neutral zones, no absolute refuge. A creature could be hunted underwater, and even if it survived and reached land, it was still in danger. And Pebas did not appear by chance. More than 80 million years ago, along the western edge of the continent, the Nazca Plate began sliding beneath the South American plate. Slowly, only a few centimeters per year, but unstoppable. Over tens of millions of years, it raised a colossal wall, the Andes Mountains. At first, the changes were subtle. Low mountain ranges, gentle shifts in the landscape. But then, they grew higher, and higher still, until they began interfering with the most important force in any ecosystem, the flow of water. Ancient rivers that once flowed westward were cut off, their currents choked. And when the water could no longer escape, it began to accumulate. A vast depression formed east of the Andes, a continent-sized geological basin. Rainwater, river systems, water from ancient drainages, all of it flowed inward, but none of it could escape. A new world began to emerge. The Pebas mega-wetland system. Around 17 to 14 million years ago, Earth entered a period of global warming, the Middle Miocene climatic optimum. Average temperatures were around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius higher than today. Atmospheric CO2 concentrations increased, ranging between 400 to 600 parts per million. In many places, it was a climate change, but in Pebas, it was a catalyst. A hot, humid climate bursting with life. At its peak, this system may have covered up to 1 million square kilometers, larger than modern-day Japan. While many Miocene regions became cooler and drier, the ancient Amazon remained hot and humid. High temperatures, stable humidity, heavy rainfall throughout the year, no major seasonal interruptions. A water vegetation sediment system operating at extreme intensity. Plants responded first. Flooded forests expanded. Palm trees, aquatic vegetation, and primitive tropical forests spread across the region. Biomass increased dramatically. Cycles of growth and decomposition continued without interruption. Leaves fell, decomposed, and released nutrients back into the water. And as the energy base of the ecosystem expanded, the upper ecological layers began to respond, especially cold-blooded animals. Reptiles, fish, amphibians, groups directly dependent on environmental temperature. As temperatures increased, metabolic rates increased as well. Growth cycles became shorter. The limits on body size began to loosen. The result was not simply more species, but larger species. Pebas became a natural incubator for life forms that exceeded normal biological limits. For millions of years, Pebas remained almost unchanged. Everything operated within the same order. Its species evolved to become fully adapted to that world. And that became its weakness. When an ecosystem depends too heavily on a single stable state, even a small change can trigger a chain reaction. That change began in the Andes. The water trapped within Pebas began searching for a way out. At first, very slowly, some shallow waters began to shrink. Certain wetlands gradually became isolated. Then the process accelerated. Water corridors collapsed. The massive system that once connected all of Pebas began to fracture. The endless stretches of water slowly turned into isolated lakes. Dry land began to emerge. And with it, a much deeper transformation was unfolding. The entire hydrological system was rewritten. Pebas, a massive stagnant wetland system, could no longer survive under these conditions. In its place, a new system emerged. The Amazon River, a continuous flow connecting the entire continent. The modern Amazon is not just a forest. It is a living system, the largest and most complex on Earth. A green ocean stretching across more than 5.5 million square kilometers, where everything is part of a vast network of life. This region holds around 10% of all known species on Earth, more than 40,000 plant species, around 3,000 fish species, hundreds of mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and birds, many still unnamed. It carries sediment from the Andes across the entire lowland basin. Every year, billions of tons of sediment continue to be transported. The land is constantly renewed, sustaining the fertility of the Amazon. The modern Amazon is the result of millions of years of geological transformation. From an ancient megalake, it became the largest ecosystem on Earth. But the alarming reality is this: nearly half of the Amazon, around 47%, is approaching a collapse threshold, driven by unprecedented pressure from global warming and deforestation. Do you think the Amazon rainforest could truly disappear within the next 100 years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective may help open a conversation that still has no clear answer. And if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of the prehistoric world.